Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Emily, and on this channel we talk about all things bookish, sometimes some vacation vlogs, sometimes some college life vlogs, but today we're going to be talking about some small town romance recommendations. I didn't even realize how many small town romances I had until I saw a video and she was like, oh, and it's a small town romance, and I was like, aren't they all though? Aren't they all? Honestly, a lot of my favorite romances are in the small town genre, and a lot of people love reading books in that area, in those areas. So I thought I'd make a video on it. Why not? Some I feel like are pretty popular, and some I feel like you guys don't know at all. So the first one is a pretty popular author, Tessa Bailey, but this is her newest series. The first one, Secretly Yours. Basically, it's about a girl and a guy, and she is very carefree and he's very uptight. In the book, he has anxiety, and that's a pretty big part of the book. But basically, when they were younger and she was 14, they almost kissed in his family's vineyard. And then now she has a little crushy crush on him, and he's coming back home to write a novel. And she, to get close to him, is doing his yard work because she's like a little gardener. All the while, there's this popular winery that's right next to her favorite winery that she's been in love with for a long time and that she's really wanting to save. And then there's also this anonymous letter portion of the book. I feel like that was kind of my least favorite part, but the romance. Oh my gosh, I love their dynamic. It was like an uptight, really fun, carefree girl. How they cared for each other and when they finally got together was just so sweet. And come on, it's Tessa Bailey. I love her writing. Everybody loves her writing, and for good reason. It makes you feel very comfortable and at home whenever you're reading it. All the side characters that there wasn't too many, kind of like Lucy Score, which we'll talk about a little bit later in this video. But the ones that we got to know, it was just so comfortable and cozy and felt like home. I can't wait to read the second one because it's about his sister who is very spunky. But another Tessa Bailey series that I love and is in a small town. It happened one summer. My actual favorite out of the duology is the second book, Hook, Line, and Sinker. I love this one. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. The second one, 5 out of 5. Obsessed. I don't remember where I put it though, so I can't really show it to you in this video. Now, this book is about a girl named Piper Bellinger, and basically she is a snooty, preppy influencer gal that kind of has a big head. I kind of hated her at the beginning of the book, and she just became way too much for her family, so they sent her off to Westport, Washington, which is where her biological father grew up and lived their life and where he met her mother. And they have to her and her sister have to rebuild this bar, and she has to figure out a way to actually live like a normal human being because she was so snooty at the beginning. And she meets this guy named Brendan, and he's a little it's a fisherman town, so he's like the lead captain, and he's very like, I don't want anybody to come into this town. It should just be everybody who was here originally and all the families that it was originally. But then he's the one that warms up to her the most, and they have such a cute romance. Just so cute. At the beginning, I really did not like Piper. I can't deal with snooty type of people, but she just got so wholesome when she was delving into her past. It just changed her as a person. She got to talk to her grandmother. Her sister was there all along the way, and her sister, Hook, Line, and Sinker, please. I read that book first. It is so phenomenal. I love them. That one's more of like a friends to lovers. This one's sort of like an enemies to lovers. Tessa Bailey just does no wrong. You gotta read it. Now, this next one I was kind of debating on putting into the video. It is Second First Impressions by Sally Thorne. She is the author that wrote The Hating Game that everybody loves, including me. I love The Hating Game. This one's about a girl named Ruthie, and she actually lives in a retirement villa. So it doesn't like outright say, oh, it's a really small town, but it mostly takes place in this retirement villa. That's where she lives. And there is a new guy that is taking over, and which is so funny because she meets the son of the guy that's taking over before she even knew it was getting taken over, and he was like, wow, you look like an old lady, and she's like, wow, that's so rude. Turns out his father is sending him to go watch over the place and kind of see what's going on, and they're living right next to each other. Not super enemies to lovers, but definitely annoyance to lovers. And while they're becoming friends and a little bit more than friends, she is trying to figure out how to save this villa because he's trying to tear it down and turn it into like a hotel or something. This book is a closed door romance, which means that there's not a lot of spicy scenes. It's very wholesome, and if you're going from YA romance to adult romance, I feel like this is a really good buffer book. I mean, it's really good in general if you read adult romance, but if you are wanting to get into more of the adult romance genre and the spicy scenes, or if you just want a closed door romance, this is definitely the one for you. The romance is so pure, and he's like a little bad boy, like wants to be a tattoo artist, and she just wants to help out old people. Like, it is so cute, so wholesome, and nobody ever talks about this book ever, and I'm here to tell you that it's worth it. And if you just want a quick, I think it's like 330 pages, very short, definitely you should read it. Now let's talk about an author that I love and that I think absolutely deserves the hype, Carly Fortune. These books, I've read both of them. This was her debut novel, and it is so fantastic. It is like Love in Other Words vibes mixed with The Summer I Turned Pretty. And I didn't really love The Summer I Turned Pretty books. I love the show, but it takes all the good parts about that series and puts it in this one novel that is just fantastic. Every Summer After is about a girl named Persephone Fraser, and it goes back and forth between past summers when she was at a lake house with her family and she was meeting these neighbors for the first time and falling for a guy named Sam Florek, and basically their love story, and then cut back to 10 years later, a decade later, and Sam's mother has died, and so she's going to their funeral, and there was a big falling out, and you're like, what happened? Why do they hate each other? What's going on in the present? And I can't say enough about this book. Like, absolutely adore this book. It is literally the best parts of Love in Other Words and best parts of Summer I Turned Pretty. And the ending, oh my gosh, I was like, Persephone, why did you guys do this? Why? Definitely one for the books. Meet Me at the Lake, however, which is a stunning cover, kind of gives a different vibe. It follows a girl named Fern, and this both gives small town romance, but it goes back and forth between different timelines. 10 years ago, I don't know what is up with this author, and 10 years later, but 10 years ago, she met this guy for 24 hours in the city in Canada, and then now, 10 years later, her mother died, and she's handling with grief at a resort that her mother owned in a rural part of Canada. And then he comes and he's going to be the kind of like marketing person, salesperson, I don't know how to explain it, for the resort, like kind of sprucing it up a bit. I feel like in this book we get a lot more of present day, and we also get a lot of her figuring herself out, like kind of coming of age, trying to figure out what she wants for herself and not what her family wants for her. The spark that these two have, like whenever I was in the past and I was like, oh my gosh, the spark that they have is just so beautiful. I love it. It's just so pure, but you also get this spice. Well, I feel like Carly Fortune isn't like a crazy spicy author. Heavy on the romance and heavy on my heart because I love it. The next one is another one that I feel like you guys won't know that well. It's 99 Days by Kitty Cottingno. This is a YA actually, and I think the only YA I have on the list. Yes. And this one is it basically screams toxic romance, you know? It's about a girl named Molly Barlow, and a couple years ago she had a boyfriend named Patrick and then had a thing with his brother Gabe. And she left the town because she was getting so harassed. And then she comes back for the summer and she's still very much getting harassed, especially by their sister. And then kind of a love triangle forms. And when I first picked this up, I was like, ooh, love triangle. Usually I love that in fantasy novels. Never tried it in like a real contemporary novel. But I feel like this book is way more than the romance. It's about a girl learning that not everything that she did is her fault. It's also, why don't the guys get any of the blame either? It talks a lot about why do women get so much blame for things that men do. Like, honestly. I feel like it kind of gives Sally Rooney vibes, but like YA. I hate when people say that. I hate when they're like, oh, Sally Rooney vibes. No, but like a YA, like the toxic couple vibes, different guys trying to influence your perspective when you're just trying to figure out how to live your life as a teenager. I felt a range of emotions with this book. I felt so much sympathy, so much annoyance, so much rage, but at the end of the day, you'll get a really beautiful story about a girl that is going through it, that is really going through it. And I didn't even talk much about the small town aspect. Basically, it's just a small town where everybody already remembers everything that she did in the past and praises the guys for what they do. And I just don't want to say anymore because I don't want to spoil anything, but read it. I think it's a great YA if you're into YA. Another closed door romance, When in Rome by Sarah Adams. I love Sarah Adams so much. The cheat sheet by her, absolutely impeccable. I read it twice in 1 year, obsessed. This one's about a girl named Amelia Rose, and she's a pop star, and then she kind of gets sick of her life, and her car breaks down in a small town in front of this guy named Noah's house. And he is kind of grumpy and doesn't want to help her because a couple years ago, this other girl came through town, he fell in love with her, and she broke his heart. And so now he's like, no, it's not the vibe. I think this book is only 300 pages too, so it's so quick, so easy to read, so addictive. And with small town romances, just like I said before, you just get the side characters that make it feel so cozy. And his sister, she's getting her own romance in the next one, and I love her. I love the side characters. It wasn't too much. I feel like everybody was like, get with her, telling him to get with her. And he was like, no, but he just couldn't deny. He couldn't deny it. It's definitely a fluffy read if you're wanting something wholesome, pure, and very quick to get into. Now, lastly, I'm ending off in a book that everybody knows about. Why is this so heavy? Oh my gosh. Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. Every single one of Lucy Score's books is a small town romance. I've read Forever and Ever. Loved that. Well, I really enjoyed that book. And Small Town Romance. This one is the most popular, and I just finished Things We Hide from the Light, which is the second book. So I was like, it's fresh on my mind. Let me add it to this video. This is about a girl named Naomi and a guy named Knox, and Naomi's running away from her wedding, and she's also trying to help her sister who left a niece that she didn't even know that she had in her care. And then there's a guy named Knox, and he is just annoying and grumpy and doesn't let anybody in his walls, in his reserves. He thinks that she's a bad girl because her twin is horrible, but he lets her stay in his little cottage, and a little, not enemies, but like annoyance to friends to lovers type thing forms. He's a billionaire. He has a bunch of different businesses, a haircut, a bar. He owns like a little, like not a hotel, like a little apartment. I feel like it's trope after trope after trope with this book, but it's so cute. This is a book where I keep talking about side characters, but I feel like with Small Town Romances, that's a pretty big deal. This is a book that I didn't love because of the side characters. I felt like there was way too many, but then I read the second book and all of them were kind of coming together, and I cannot wait for Lucian's book, the final and last book in the series. It is going to be so good. But after reading the second book, I can tell you, I do like Nash and Lena, but Naomi and Knox, there's something about them, and you got their wedding in the second book, so it was just, it's just so good. If you've been hearing about it and you didn't know if you wanted to give it a try, here you go. I'm telling you that it's definitely worth it. I think you should wait it out for Lucian's book though. And I'm hoping to read By a Thread by her because I think that's another small town romance, I don't remember, but Lucy Score is definitely an author that should be a must read. So those were all the small town romances that I recommend. I have a bunch more, so if you want another video like this, definitely let me know. I'll definitely do another one. I'm a big city girl. I grew up in Miami, so there's nothing like a small town romance to kind of get myself out of my comfort zone and go into everybody else's reality that is not my own. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please subscribe, comment down below, do whatever you want to do, and goodbye.